All right, guys, so today's topic is multiplying fractions. For the most part, this should be a review from fifth grade, but if it's not, you're going to get this lesson again. So, a couple of helpful hints when it comes to multiplying. The word of indicates multiplication. For example, 3/4 of 44 is the same as 3/4 times 44. Now, you do have to be careful because sometimes the word of is used just as a word in the sentence. So you're going to have to determine, is it just a word in a sentence or is it telling me to multiply? Something else for you to know. Multiplying a number by a fraction less than 1 will give you a smaller answer. So in the example we have above, 3/4 times 44, because 3/4 is less than a whole, my final answer will be smaller. So if you multiply it out and you're like, why is my answer smaller when multiplication normally gives us a bigger answer? That is why. So a couple things we need to know as well is when I have a whole number and I am multiplying it by a fraction, I also need to make that whole number a fraction. I do that by putting a 1 in the denominator. So anytime I have a whole number and I'm multiplying a fraction, once again, you just put a 1 in the denominator. The other thing we have to know how to do is to take a mixed number and make it into an improper fraction. I cannot multiply using a mixed number. That is why we have to make it improper. Now, if you forget how to change this, use the Texas method. Remember, we live in Texas, so the abbreviation is Texas. Watch. TX. Texas. We have to use addition and multiplication to convert this. So I start here at the bottom. I do 2 times 1, which gives me 2. Now, once I do that, I'm done with those numbers. I don't need them again. Then I add 2 plus 1, which gives me 3. So my numerator is going to be 3. Now the question is, what should my denominator be? Well, the denominator does not change, so it stays a 2 since that was the original. So if it helps you to write the denominator first, do that. All right, here's our first situation. Multiplying a fraction by a whole number. So once again, I see that whole number. I know that I need to put it over 1. Once I do that, all I do is multiply straight across. So 7 times 1 gives me 7. 1 times 3 gives me 3. You then would need to simplify your answer. Well, 7/3 is already simplified because they're both prime numbers. You can't get any smaller. So I leave it alone. I prefer that you keep your final answer improper. If you want to change it into a mixed number, you can. So to change it to a mixed number, you would have to divide. And the top number would be your whole. The denominator does not change, and the remainder would be your numerator. So either 7/3 or 2 1/3 would be correct. All right, our next situation, we like this one because we don't have to change anything, is multiplying a fraction by a fraction. All you do, multiply straight across. So 2 times 5 gives me 10. 3 times 6 gives me 18. If you leave this as 10/18, your answer is wrong because we have to simplify. If you're unsure what to simplify by, ask yourself, are they even numbers? Yes. So I could use 2. Does it end in a 5? If it ends in a 5, you could use a 5. If it ends in a 0, you could use, if both end in 0, you could use 5 or 10. Okay, so questions like that are what you can ask yourself. In this situation, they are both even, so I know I could use 2. And 2 is actually the greatest common factor. So I divide both the bottom and the top by 2, and I get 5/9 as my final answer. Once again, if you write 10/18, we would count that wrong. All right, and the last situation we have is multiplying a fraction by a mixed number. So here's that word of. Remember, of means multiply. So my first step is I have to convert that mixed number into an improper fraction. If I do that using my Texas method, I should get 7/4 as the improper fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. 2/5 times 7/4. Now I can multiply straight across, so that would be 14 over 20. I need to simplify this. 2 is a common factor. And I get 7 over 10 as my final answer. All right, here's an example of what you may see on a test. A lot of times, fractions are going to be dealing with word problems. So take a moment and try this on your own. And let's see if your answer will match with mine. All right, so our problem says 1/2 of the class wants to play a softball game. 2/3 of those who want to play the game wish to play it on Tuesday. What fraction of the whole class wanted to play the game on Tuesday? I would go through and underline important information. So we know 1/2 of the class wants to play softball. 2/3 of those, so referring to that 1/2, want to play the game on Tuesday. What fraction of the whole class wanted the game on Tuesday? Well, we know that the whole class doesn't want to play, but half does. And then 2/3 of the 1/2 want to play on Tuesday. So if I was to set this up, I have 2/3 of 1/2. Now I can just multiply straight across. 2 times 1 gives me 2. 3 times 2 gives me 6. I need to simplify.
Good morning, teachers. This is a reminder.
So once I simplify by 2, I get 1/3 as my final answer. Some good news for you today. You do not have an assignment to complete over this. Okay, but please make sure you have turned in any missing word that you may have. Okay, so once again, no assignment to complete, but make sure you turn in any missing work.